the absolute worst diet and nutrition advice that doctors still give people. Of course, I'm not talking about all doctors, just certain doctors that are more old school that just focus on medicine. The last advice that I'm going to talk about is the most dangerous one. Number one, people can get all their nutrition from food. They don't need supplements. There's several problems with this theory. Number one, the RDAs for most of these nutrients are over 100 years old, completely outdated. It's almost impossible to get vitamin D from your food, potassium someone needs, magnesium someone needs. On top of that, people are eating the wrong foods that deplete them of nutrients, especially refined carbohydrates and sugar. Over 50% of their calories are refined foods. That depletes a lot of nutrition. Then we have the missing nutrients in food because our soils are so bad. When you go to the grocery store and you buy just salad, you think that salad is grown on soil. It's not. It's grown either on dirt where they just give like 3 minerals. A lot of the salad is hydroponic. You don't get the benefit of all those microorganisms in the soil, unfortunately. The microbes are really the key giving the food nutrition. Then we have the medications that deplete you of nutrients too, like statin drugs, the drug that blocks cholesterol. If you're taking that drug, you're going to be low in something called coenzyme Q10. You take metformin, you're going to be very deficient in vitamin B12 and B1. A lot of the medication that you take will deplete things like magnesium and trace minerals. I don't think many people have evaluated their food to see if they're getting at least the RDAs. Let's take potassium. You need 4,700 milligrams. Then you have the argument, there's no evidence that shows that supplements will help you. Just because something has not been researched doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's even interesting because there's certain articles in the news, vitamin A, vitamin E, causes more harm to you, so we should avoid these vitamins. The next time someone tells you, oh yeah, nutrition doesn't work, you shouldn't take it, it can cause more harm than good, just ask them this. Maybe we should just refine the food, take out the nutrients, and eat what's left. That's what we've been doing now. We've been eating refined food, basically calories without nutrition. Next recommendation, take more calcium to prevent osteoporosis because our bones are made out of calcium and we just need to make sure we take more of it. Did you realize that you can test someone's blood and they can be completely normal with the levels of calcium, but have severe bone loss? You could have severe loss of calcium in the blood and show normal bone health. Most of the time, people get osteoporosis as they age, usually after menopause, when our hormones start going downhill, especially estrogen and also testosterone. Estrogen helps maintain calcium in the bone. When women get their ovaries removed, osteoporosis risk goes up. There's something else involved with osteoporosis that I want to mention, and that is parathyroid glands. If you look at the parathyroid hormone, you can kind of look at it like an extra vitamin D. It helps increase the absorption of calcium in the blood. The body, says, well, listen, we need to maintain this calcium because it's super important for signaling communication between cells. One of the purposes for bone is to act as a calcium reserve, like a storage for calcium. What is that parathyroid going to do if we're low in vitamin D? It's going to steal it from the bone, and it's going to put it in the blood to maintain normal calcium. When someone's vitamin D is low, parathyroid goes up. It grabs calcium from the bone to maintain that calcium. Along with that, you have another very important vitamin called vitamin K2, which actually helps take that calcium from the blood and put it into the bone. Without vitamin K2, the calcium doesn't really move that much. And also to build bone, you need magnesium. Of course, you can also have osteoporosis if you drink too much alcohol, or you don't exercise at all, or you take antacids. This next one really gets to me, sunblock, because the sun causes skin cancer. Here's the problem with this sun blocker. This all started in the 80s where we had a lot of health problems go up. I wonder if it's connected to vitamin D. Because of this introduction of what's called sun phobia, we did not get a reduction in melanoma. It continued to go up. I agree that we shouldn't go out in the sun and get burned, but we need to go out there to at least get enough vitamin D. Think about what vitamin D does with your immune system. It feeds certain cells that kill cancer cells. We cannot get enough vitamin D from our food. But if you're operating off this completely false idea that all we need is 600 international units of vitamin D3 as the RDAs, which is completely bogus. An average person only gets like 500 IUs of vitamin D3 from the sun, so it's just not enough. We need, as a maintenance dosage, 10,000 IUs every single day just to function normally. The next bad advice, snack frequently to prevent overeating. This is not true. What you're doing when you're snacking is you're raising insulin and you're creating a blood sugar situation. You're actually keeping the hunger strong when you snack. Eating simulates hunger. When you don't eat, you give your body a chance to convert into burning your fat. You can't do that if you're snacking. Why? Because of the darn insulin thing. Insulin is the hormone that will block your ability to tap into your fat reserve. Snacking is bad advice. Intermittent fasting is good advice. This next one is bad. You can have sugar as long as it's in moderation. It's high fructose corn syrup, toxic food, alcohol, smoking. Do you realize who came up with that advice? Food manufacturing companies. They came out with that because they had to get people to eat it somehow. What's the next best thing? Well, just have a little bit, just in moderation. You're going to get a lot of people that will agree with that. Listen, let me tell you the big problem with that advice. When you eat your carbohydrates in moderation, you will not be able to tap into your fat reserves. Some people might if they have a super good metabolism, but most people can't because they have insulin resistance. That'll keep them from being able to burn their own fat, which means they won't be able to get rid of their appetite. Try to do a program or a diet when you're hungry all the time. So many people can stick with it if you just help them get rid of that appetite and that hunger. And to do that, you cannot consume carbs in moderation. The next one, you need to be very careful of your saturated fats. You want to eat lean protein. Saturated fat does not clog your arteries. The carbs are a much bigger risk for heart problems than saturated fat. We need cholesterol for our brain, for our membranes around our cells, for our hormones. Think about when someone gets on a statin drug, the risk for cancer goes up. If you're just going to just shut down cholesterol to the entire body, you have a serious misunderstanding with the function and the purpose of cholesterol in the body. The body actually makes most of the cholesterol we have. Only a small percentage comes from the diet. Next one, start consuming more whole grains because they're heart healthy. Whole grains trigger blood sugar. Many products don't just have whole grains in them. They have refined grains mixed in with them and maltodextrin, modified food starch. I mean, there might be a few products out there, but they're not as common as mixed with other things. The other problem with whole grains is that we have this thing called phytates, a chemical compound that blocks certain key nutrients. And we have the gluten in the whole grain. Gluten really irritates the gut. Another advice that I really disagree with is you better avoid red meat because red meat causes cancer. The World Health Organization and other organizations recommend that you avoid red meat. Grass-fed, grass-finished red meat has higher amounts of omega-3. I really believe that grass-fed, grass-finished red meat is the healthiest thing you can eat. It does not cause cancer. Another point is that it's okay to eat sugar or carbs because our brain runs on glucose. Yes, it does run on glucose, but it also can run on ketones. And if you keep feeding your brain glucose, you're going to create a situation in your brain where your cells can't even use glucose anymore, called insulin resistance. Your neurons will start to starve and you'll start getting symptoms of dementia. Just do the simple experiment. Cut down carbs, have a high quality protein, and just see how your brain feels. Within an hour, it'll just feel much better. Then go back to the carbohydrates. See how your brain feels. You go right into the brain fog. Another one is if someone has high blood pressure, they're told to restrict salt. I think a much better solution would be to eliminate the junk food that has the refined carbohydrates, which is directly behind the hypertension, and also to increase vitamin D and especially potassium. Start increasing potassium to balance out that sodium. You can help minimize the blood pressure. You can put the person in a good situation, cut out the carbs, and get to the root cause. The last piece of bad advice. All calories are equal. It doesn't matter if those calories are from sugar or from celery. They all are the same. This is outdated, old information. You end up blaming the patient for low willpower because they can't stick it out over a period of time because they're always hungry and they're craving the wrong things. The body does not treat all calories equal. Instead of creating a calorie deficit, only create a carbohydrate calorie deficit. What's going to happen when you reduce those calories for carbohydrates is you're going to force the body to then have an alternative fuel. It's going to burn more fat. Your hunger and cravings will diminish and you'll be able to stick to it a lot longer, practicing intermittent fasting and get the benefits of that. Since we've been focusing on all the bad advice, let's give you some good advice of exactly what you should be eating with this video right here. Check it out.